Folks, this is the 18650 battery pack that I made for my Fatshark goggles. And in case you haven't been following along, this is what all the cool kids are doing. The Fatshark battery that comes with the goggles does not have enough capacity to get a whole day of flying in, especially if you're using one of the diversity modules, the the LaForge, the True D, diversity, the two pineapples, the Real ACC, you name it. They draw more power than the standard module does because there's two modules instead of one, right? They draw about, in my measurements, about 25% more power. So you need bigger batteries. Even if you don't have a diversity module, you should consider making one of these if you feel up to it, if you can do it safely and you have the skills and the equipment. Because this will go through a whole day of flying. Like really, it'll go through a whole day of flying, no problem. And I have attached this little mod to it. This is the Banggood capacity board. I have a video about this. It shows you how charged up your battery is. Isn't that nice? Yeah, so that's cool too. But there's a problem with this. And the problem with this goes back to your Fatshark goggles. It turns out that your Fatshark goggles are designed to run off of a 2S LiPo, and they start whining about the battery being too low. I don't know the exact voltage, but in my experience in the field, they start beeping at me somewhere around 7.2 volts, and somewhere around 7.0 volts, they're done. They stop. And if you do the math with a 2-cell battery, 7.0 volts is 3.5 volts per cell, which if you're talking about a flight pack, like where you're really pounding the battery, like a 4S 1300 that you're flying off of, 3.5 volts per cell, it's not usable anymore because there's so much voltage sag when you're trying to pull 20 amps from it that it's just you're done. 3.6 maybe volts per cell is as low as I like to go before I stop flying. But if all you're doing is you're pulling, so let's say 600 milliamps, which is what something like the LaForge or the True D pulls, you can draw these down significantly lower, and you're not damaging them because you're not sucking amps out of them at a rate that they're like crying for mercy. And so since the Fatshark goggle cuts out at 3.5 volts per cell, you actually have a substantial amount of capacity left in these batteries that you're not getting, you're not using. And I actually measured it. Like I flew this pack out in the field. My goggles started beeping at me, and eventually they were going to shut down. I was at about 7 volts, maybe 7.1 volts. And I put this on my charger, and I discharged it down to 3.1 volts per cell. And how many more milliamp hours do you think I got? The answer is I got 900 milliamp hours more out of it. Now this battery is rated 3000 milliamp hours, but it's not a high quality cell. It's a cheap one. I was going for price, not for performance. And I get about 2000 milliamp hours out of it total if I put it on the charger and discharge it down to 3.1 or 3.0. I don't remember exactly. So basically, this battery had about half its capacity left in it, a little less than half, when the Fatshark goggles said, "Oh, I better stop. Your battery is too low. Let's be safe." And I am going to show you how to fix that. This is a Pololu 9-volt step-up regulator. And what this is going to do is it's going to make sure that the goggle always sees 9 volts. The goggle will always see 9 volts, and therefore the goggle will never say, "Your battery's too low. I'm going to stop now and shut down so you can't fly anymore." You will just get 9 volts until, well, since this is a 2-cell, you'll get 9 volts pretty much until this thing is just completely toast, right? Even down at 3 or 2, even some of these lithium-ion cells, people say you can discharge them down to 2.5 volts per cell safely. I don't know if you get like a discharge curve just drops off like crazy, or if that's, I don't know about that, but you're certainly good down to 3 volts per cell, right? And this is going to keep pumping out 9 volts. You could go down, you can feed this thing as little as I think like 2.5 volts, and it'll push it up to 9 volts. So basically you get 9 volts until this battery is completely dead. Now that is a pro and a con, because you can kill your battery with this thing. You will just get 9 volts and you'll get no warning that this guy is going to die and getting hot and getting low and you're damaging it. So if you go with one of these, you definitely also need to go with one of these, so that you can be checking your voltage level in the field. And the great thing is that this board, the very lowest LED comes on at 3.15 volts per cell. So essentially, if you push that button and even one LED lights up, you're still good. And if no LEDs light up, you actually still have a little bit more to give safely, but at that point maybe you should decide to stop. I don't know. Maybe it would be nice if you could tweak the exact voltage level for these LEDs so you could pick where the cutoff is. That is not a feature this board has when you buy it from Banggood. You could certainly buy and build your own and make it do whatever you want. So let me show you how to install this. This is the standard way it's built, and here is the discharge lead coming off here. And I don't want to desolder all this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cut this and install the step-up regulator just on this lead. Now, when you cut a discharge lead like this, don't just cut through, because when your cutter makes contact with the wires, it will short the lead, and you'll get a spark, and you may even like damage your cutters or even worse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually split this a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now I've got them separated like this, so I can cut one and then the other, not both. If we take a look here, you can see it's very simple. There's V in, ground, and V out. It's really not rocket science. So we're going to have the battery V in here, and we're going to have the V out going to the discharge lead, and then we got ground. So it's really quite easy. Gonna just shorten that up a little. Don't need it to be super long. I'm pretty sure that's going to be too thick to go through the wire, the whole actual through hole there. Yeah, no, that's going to be too thick to go through the through hole. That's all right with me. Okay. And then I guess I'll think about where this is going to go. I think I'm just going to fold it back to here. So then I'm going to want something like that. And what I'll do, I find a good approach to this kind of thing is take a couple pieces of foam tape, which I'm going to use anyway. I like to use foam tape on the backside so that the electronics aren't cutting into anything, and so it's got a little bit of padding to keep if the board gets a little bent or stressed. But I think what I'm going to do is and then what you can do, I guess the inductor, I mean this thing isn't going to generate very much heat, but in principle I suppose it would be good to put the inductor on the outside so it dissipates heat. But I'm not going to, because I think having it flat here is going to be better in terms of usability and durability. So let's put that right there, and then that's going to hold it in place while I solder to it. See how nice that is? we should have 9 volts on the output side. And before I button it all up, it wouldn't hurt to get in here with a multimeter and just check that. When you're going to measure something like this, I'm always a little worried that I'm going to get a little slipped up with my probes and short the pads, especially if I'm working with a camera in front of me. So you can actually get ground just about anywhere on a circuit like this. And so I'm going to grab ground from here, the top of the cell, and I'm going to now go in and measure V out, and I should have 9 volts. 9.11. I'm willing to bet 9.11. I'm willing to bet that's my multimeter reading a little bit off. Oh no, it was dead on. 9.12. There you go. Okay. Well, 2 out of 2 multimeters agree. It's slightly high. Pololu. Gracious Pololu. I wanted 9 volts, not 9.12 volts. Golly, Pololu. And I'm going to get a fresh one because this one is just a little shorter than I would like. You could easily solder it here and have plenty of room, but what I like to do is run it down and then back again with some tape around it as a strain relief. So I need actually more than you would think. So let's see. This, I don't use my balance lead for the fan because I've modded my goggles to not need it. So I like to have the balance lead come out the back of the battery. That means this is going to be the front of the battery. That means that this is going to go on top. Amateur hour here. Look at that. Amateur hour. Acceptable. Okay, so that's going to go like, where's the button going? I got no choice, I guess. That's going to go on top. Like that. Acceptable. And then this is going to come out that side, so it's going to get soldered on, it's going to go down and then back again. Let's do that on this side so it's out of the way. Back again, and that's a good length. I'm fine with it just leaving it at the length it's at. So let's see, V out is going to go there, but ground is actually going to go up on the top. So actually they need to not be the same length. What I like to do in a situation like this is put just a bit of fresh solder on to get a little bit of fresh flux in there. So that I'm not soldering into the old stuff. And it also helps me avoid desoldering the stuff that's already on there. Okay. I'm not sure, I wouldn't rather have that pass underneath there, just to make it a little more flush. Yeah, that's good. And that's going to be V out right there. Now, come on now, don't unstick. Stay stuck. Excellent. Excellent. And we should have 1 volts here. 9.11 volts. Bingo. And we will have 9 volts forever until this battery is well discharged. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some tape, foam tape on the end just to help pad the end a little bit and protect it against whatever might happen to it. You know, if you are sticking these in your goggles and they're getting rubbed against, you know, etc., any kind of stress they might encounter. So I've got foam tape on either end there, making sure to just give that a little padding. And then, and this is not those of you who are into aesthetics will really not like this, but I'm going to take some electrical tape, and this is basically all I'm going to do. So the next thing I'm not done yet. The next thing I want to do is I want to put strain relief on this. You can see that that joint is not super strong, so I never want that getting pulled on. That will come off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of tape here, right there, and wrap this for strain relief. Now I'm going to fold that back like so to make sure that that's going to be long enough to get to the goggles. I think that it is. I might pull that up just a little bit to give me just a couple millimeters of additional space. And then I'm going to wrap like so. Let's just get that sorted. What are you doing there? What are you doing there? Don't do that. Yeah. Let's just do that. One wrap there to make everything nice. And then that goes like so. And one wrap there to hold that in place. Then this goes on the top. Nice. Let's get that centered. And I've got the padding on there because it's a circular surface, but it's a flat object, so. And then we will, let's do the long ways wraps first. I'm going to wrap it long ways to hold the tape on and just keep that all together. Okay. Looking good. It's not looking good. It doesn't look good, but it's functional and safe. How about that? So then I'm going to start at the bottom end, and I'm going to show you how I wrap this. Because the other question you got to ask her is, how are you going to see the LEDs? And believe it or not, you can see the LEDs through one layer of this tape. No problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this, and I'm going to make sure that I pass the tape in between the LEDs. You see how it's going in between them? I'm not going to pass it across one where I would have to do a double wrap. And what that's going to do is it's going to ensure that there is never more than one piece of tape on an LED. And you can see here, you can, well, I gotta get to the bottom LEDs because my battery's not charged. Again, I'm going to make sure I pass through the middle and I do not pass the tape over twice over the same LED. So again, here, if you look, you can see that really easily. But if I were to do like this, it gets, you see how that one you can kind of not really see? Yeah, it's not as good. So I'm just never going to do that. And we're almost done. No, that's not exactly square, but it'll do. It'll do. There you go. That is my Fatshark battery. So we got the capacity right there. We got the 9-volt step up, so we get the full capacity out of it, and we're done.